I'm going to give you what I consider a failed prediction of Ellen White, which once again shows that she's a false prophet. Now, I will put this into the context in which the statement was made and let you, the viewer, decide was it false prophecy or was it not. In a chapter called The Gathering Time, in the early writings of Ellen White, she makes this statement on page 38 in PDF format and page 75 in a hardback. She makes this statement, and I quote, "I saw that old Jerusalem never would be built up, and that Satan was doing his utmost to lead the minds of the children of the Lord into these things now in the gathering time, to keep them from throwing their whole interest into the present work of the Lord, and to cause them to neglect the necessity preparing for the day of the Lord." End quote. So she's saying that she saw that old Jerusalem will never be built back up again. And she's making this prediction to the people in her day. Now then, what was the background of all of this? Let me give you the background. In 1844, you remember, Jesus Christ did not return as Ellen White and William Miller had predicted. So they started scurrying to find out what's going on. Why didn't Jesus come back like we predicted that he would? Well, if they looked at the chart and saw they should never have been in the date-setting business to start with, and that everything on the chart was wrong, they would have known what went wrong. But rather than looking at the chart and saying the whole thing's wrong, they tried to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and come up with some ideas. Why didn't Jesus come back? Well, they came up with this idea, and they get it out of Leviticus chapter 17, where it says blood was sprinkled on the altar 7 times. So they said, well, looky here, the blood was sprinkled on the altar 7 times, so every time they sprinkled blood on the altar, it must have represented a year, so we actually have 7 more years. It's kind of like their bogus day-year principle. They turn a day into a year and a year into a prophetic year. Now they're turning their sprinkling of blood into a year. So now, what they're doing now is predicting the return of Jesus Christ in 1851. That is part of the context of her saying, get ready, get ready, get ready. What we've had years to learn, they've only got months to learn now. That is the background of that context. So now they've set the date for Jesus Christ to return in 1851. And before 1851, there were some people within this group who wanted to go to Jerusalem to witness to the Jews and carry the gospel to them. But by her predicting that Jesus Christ would return in 1851, and now here they're wanting to go to Jerusalem, that is the background of why she says, I saw that old Jerusalem would never be built up. These people wanted to go there and spread the gospel. She said, it's kind of like no need to. I saw that old Jerusalem would never be built back up. Now then, it's interesting to see that in the Review and Herald of October 7th, 1851, volume 2, number 5, there was a meeting held. And at this meeting, James White makes this statement. And he wrote about the distracting relation to Old Jerusalem. In other words, what was distracting about this relation to Old Jerusalem? Because these people want to go back there. And he wrote in there, this distraction about the Old Jerusalem was not brought up at this meeting again. In other words, Ellen White had already said Old Jerusalem was not going to be built back up. So in 1851, at a meeting, James White refers back to it, saying that this wasn't a distraction anymore. So apparently they listened to Ellen White and realized that Jesus was going to come back in 1851, and there was no need and no time to go to Jerusalem and to witness to the Jews and carry the gospel to them. So that is the background of why she said, I saw that old Jerusalem would not be built back up. Because in 1851, according to her and her cohorts, Jesus Christ was going to return and the world was going to end, and there was no need to go to Jerusalem because it would not be built back up. That is the context in which she made this statement. It was in the context of a failed prediction on the return of Jesus Christ that she also made this failed prediction as well, which beyond a doubt shows she was indeed a false prophet to me. Now, this is something that the Seventh-day Adventists have tried to explain away and say, that's not really what it says. That's exactly what it says, and that's the context in which she said it. So you make up your mind and you decide.